Check out the slideshow. This is just kind of a little bit of a snapshot of what we did last year, and some of what I'll be talking about tonight are some of the activities for the upcoming year. So I thought I'd give a little bit of context. You can see what we actually accomplished around here. All right, so first of all, welcome. My name is Mark Caraway. I'm the director for the Blue Ridge Virtual Governor School, which it's like being the some kids out of bathrooms all day. But what we do really here tonight, we have most of our core staff at Blue Ridge here. We kind of manage all of the activities that we do program-wide. So happens at the school level with and hopefully you've had a chance to meet your school teachers. It's tough to get them out because they're already do their back to school nights at their local schools. So hopefully you had a chance to see them. But what I'm going to do tonight is talk about a couple of different things. First of all, introductions. So just introduce myself. Blue Ridge has apparently stepped out of the room, so I'll introduce them when they get back. Oh, there's Christy. Okay, Christy Bunovich is our administrative specialist, which means she does all of like the heavy lifting for information flow and things like that. So you might occasionally see email or get a call from her in relation to things like registrations for, say, college classes or other things like that. So Christy does that, and she feeds students, which is a very important part of what we do. So I don't know if you've ever caught word on this, but we do all these big field trips. You saw some of these on the slideshow where we had 100 some kids in this room doing different kinds of work, actually several times last week. And so we have to get in like 50 Domino's pizzas, and kind of it's an assembly line of food. So that's Christy's job. In the back, we also have Jerry Reynolds. Jerry is our computer science instructor. He's been for many years our online computer science instructor, and for the last this is your third year as online learning coordinator. And one of the things that having Jerry here has done is really allowed us to expand what we do, are able to offer for online courses about that. So that's the main thing. We're going to kind of give you a little bit of what the overall purpose is. Not a ton of time on this because we really appreciate y'all taking time on a rainy. We were hoping the rain would hold off, but obviously it's a rainy night now. We'll go a little bit over what we're looking for and looking to promote and for skills. The project work that we do. A little bit on policies. You'll be seeing a handbook coming home. Technology. The one introduction I can't do tonight is Mrs. Alton, who is our technology person. She is about 12 months pregnant, so she is going to be out for this semester, and she was going to try to make it tonight, but she said she's just a little too close to get there. So she said no, she didn't want to risk having a baby in front of all of y'all. So, but we'll talk a little bit about technology. Primarily, we'll tell you a little bit about what's going to happen this year. You saw on the slideshow just some of the things that we do. How does that work? What's the schedule of the year going to be? And also, we'll give you some tips. I do a lot of work with college professors. Actually, I'm teaching college myself, so spending a lot of time going to what works best for as we prepare our students. What are the things that students need to know, but also you as parents need to know, just in terms of preparing for that environment. So, and we'll give you some time for any questions or any input that you would like to have at the end, either on an individual basis or with the group here. So did the introductions here. A little bit about us. We're almost 600 students this year from 7 different counties. One of the things about this is that we are one of the few governor schools. There are 19 governor schools across the state. We're one of the few that actually operates pretty much entirely out of the funding provided by the state. So most of the governor schools also have to have a local kind of tuition payment paid by the school system for their governor school program. In our program, that's not really the case. So we do have 18 slots per district, and it's one of the reasons we have a limitation on the number of slots that we have for the governor school, and that's why students have to apply. We do have some districts that choose to go above that number of slots, and then they take on the responsibility for paying for those slots if they do that. So that's Orange, Blue Mountain, and Gooseland have done that in the last several years. So one of the things about us, we used to be a really narrow mission program. We used to be all about nothing but science, technology, engineering, and math. And we've taken this apart over the last couple of years because with nearly 600 students, we realized that our students have a really broad range of interests. We still need to be founded around a central theme. That's one of the requirements for the governor's school. So we still are founded around science, technology, engineering, math. But really, we're looking at a lot of different things. We're looking at students with a lot of different abilities, with a lot of different interests, and we're trying to expand our curriculum, particularly in the junior and senior years, so that students have the opportunity to really explore some different things. So that's the big part of what we're trying to do. The other thing we're trying to do is challenge our students, inspire them, and prepare them with all of the things that they need. As I mentioned, we spend a lot of time working with colleges, spend a lot of time thinking about what students are going to need in that setting. We hear a lot from our graduates. I just got 2 emails last week from students who were just starting their collegiate experience and talking about how they were already using some of the things they took from Blue Ridge, which was great to hear. One of them had worked with with the Library of Congress Film Restoration Center up in Culpeper as part of her senior internship, and got into a job doing rare book restoration at the University of Virginia, and was loving it already. So things like that, those are the opportunities we're trying to figure out how we can find really unique things that students can do and practice and learn to get ready for that environment. So primarily we do this with skills, and I won't spend a great deal of time, but I think it's worth for parents particularly knowing. We're doing a lot of project-based learning in this program where students are coming together. If you've got a 9th grader, you've got a 10th grader, particularly, you'll hear a lot about these big field trips we do where a project will get started or an experiment. We've already started on our field trips for the year and had most of them already where we've kind of gotten kicked off on these things. These are big projects that take place over a long period of time. We work on time management. We work on information management, research, and writing skills. We work on teamwork skills. We really work students, we don't just put students in teams and say, good luck, hope it works out for you. We work on what do you need to do. The students are going to need to write contracts. They're going to have to come up with agreements. They're going to have to know what they're going to do in case of a crisis. So those are the kind of things that we're primarily working for. And again, these are the things that we hear about from the students that hit the collegiate level. Before I get into some of the other stuff, I meant to ask this up front. How many of you are parents of a 9th grader in Blue Ridge? How many 10th grader parents? Okay. How many juniors? How many seniors? Okay, so juniors and seniors are not quite as well represented, but we will, I think for those of you who are parents of younger students in Blue Ridge, you will find some of the information about the juniors and seniors helpful as you're helping plan students for later years. So I mentioned the projects. They are very different from semester to semester. Basically, any semester that a student is in a Blue Ridge class, for the most part, they will see some form of project. So the world history students just kicked off on a project that was, it's all about building a website that will represent the best technologies developed by different civilizations. So they're on teams by civilizations. You've got one group, South America, you've got another group that's ancient China, another group that's ancient India. They have to come together as a team, figure out what their best technologies were. Right now, they're doing the research and writing and becoming experts in this topic as individuals. They'll come together in about a month or so as a group, and then they're going to put their heads together and develop a website that will represent a virtual museum where they'll represent that. So while we're here, I want to just take you for a second and show you as parents, you have the opportunity to see what these projects look like in terms of the requirements. All of our projects are on our website. So talk a little bit about this. On our website here, under the academics tab, which is the third over here, if you click on that, one of the drop downs is current projects. So you can go into any of the projects, any of your child's projects, particularly in the 9th and 10th grade, are all spelled out very clearly here. So this is the virtual museum project. If you go into that, it gives all of the different guidelines. It gives the project steps. This is a resource for students, it's a resource for teachers, and it's a resource for parents. And one of the big things that's a resource for parents on is over here on the left, if you go in the navigation, it has all of the project dates on it. That's good for parents to know. So when you're looking at these different projects, you can see we've got our kickoffs listed. We just had those on August 29th. We had one group of schools. We'll have another group of schools this coming week on Thursday. And then there's what we do in order to teach time management is we break these things out. So different pieces of the researchers do over different times. So you'll see some of the research portions are due between now and say early October, and the paper actually, the first draft is due in November 18th, and the final paper is due November 1st, and that's pretty typical of a lot of what we do. So again, any of the project, wherever your child is, you can ask them which project are you on. You can go into our website and see that stuff. So that's a big part of what we do. The other thing, just to make parents aware of, you should be seeing handbooks coming home. If your child is in a class this semester, you should be seeing Blue Ridge handbooks coming in. One of the things I like to remind students is they are actually they actually belong to two different schools. Their local school with their local school policies, and and the Blue Ridge school, Blue Ridge Virtual Governor School. So there's some things that we really play up with the students when we're going over the handbooks. One is the honor code. We've got a very clearly spelled out honor code. I write a ton of college recommendations right now. I'm in the midst of being contacted by lots of our seniors who want to have college recommendations. As I tell the students, the best thing I can say on that is that they have been an honorable student throughout. So with our program, particularly because we have a lot of high ability students who really, they want to get good grades, and we're also operating a lot in online spaces, it can be very tempting to, hey, here's a little piece of something that I can use and just plug it in, and that's going to be an A. So that's what we talk to our students a lot about. The other thing is that we also talk a lot about the fact they get to collaborate on these projects. They get to work together. And we want to be very clear on what those guidelines look like. For example, in Mr. Reynolds' class, in computer science class, they can show each other their code. If you're stuck and you don't know how to do a particular thing, you can talk to another classmate, you can look at different stuff. But you cannot copy and paste somebody else's code. So we're very clear on what is acceptable and what's not in regard to honor code. Academic standing, we expect our students to keep their grades up to a minimum level of C- across all of their classes, and then an overall average of 3.0 for each marking period. That's a little bit of a change from prior policies. If something happens where a student slips below that, one of the things that we do is we start with trying to figure out what the issues are. Are they low test scores? Are they students not getting work in? The counselors at the local school and Blue Ridge officials will get together and work with students to figure out what are the things that they can do to improve their grades. We are not looking to get rid of any students through our academic standing policy, but we are looking to help students improve. So student continues to have ongoing problems. We kind of up the requirements, and they get really more specific about things that need to happen in certain time frames. That's worth taking a look at in the handbook when you see that. Also, our code of conduct. This is something we don't see a lot of problems with this, but I like to tell parents and students because it has happened in the past where we've had a student who's gotten in trouble at their local school and then said, I didn't realize I get in trouble with Blue Ridge too. If that happens, it does. And we have a policy that says if a student does something in a discipline violation that gets them in an in-school or out-of-school suspension, there's a Blue Ridge administrative review process to determine what their status is going to be with the program. So again, doesn't happen often. I don't expect it's going to happen, but when it does, we want to make sure that everybody's informed. Field trips, because of the nature of what we do in these project-based trips, that's primarily what we do with our field trips. We do expect students to participate in those, to show up ready for a school day, basically. Most of the field trips take place within the school day. Students get to school, then they get on a bus, they come here, or they go to UVA or other places locally. Twice a year, for the ninth graders, twice a year, we will go to DC, and those will be longer. We'll use charter buses for those. Some of them will leave earlier than the school day. Kind of depends on where your school is. If you're out in Nelson, you leave really early. Sorry, but we're trying to find a place south that we can go south, so Nelson doesn't have to be the first on the bus and last off the bus, but we haven't figured that out quite yet. But we do also understand that there's lots going on sometimes with students, so we expect them to show. But if there's a conflict, if there's a game, not practice, but a game, if there's a performance for a play, something like that, or if there's a family event, just contact the local teacher with plenty of time, and we'll work out something for alternative assignment. It's also for parents to note there is a grade appeal process for Blue Ridge, and it's one of the things that we're trying to promote is students being their own advocates. Working in a college environment, one of the things that one of the biggest stumbling blocks for students when they're not successful in college is students who are not successful in college usually don't talk to their professors. One of the things we're trying to do is kind of encourage if you have an issue, if you think there's a problem with the way things are graded, that student needs to start by talking that out with the teacher. And then there's other processes beyond that. What ends up happening sometimes is, particularly for students who have done really, really well in their entire school experience, sooner or later something's going to happen. You're going to get a B on a paper. And what happens sometimes is I get a call from a parent saying, my kid just got a B on a paper they've never gotten a B in their life. I want this fixed. I didn't assign it and I didn't grade the paper. So it's probably that's not the best place to start. So again, the biggest part is getting kids being advocates for themselves. Technology, one of the things we have, all of our students have Blue Ridge emails and they all use Blue Ridge computers for the most part. A couple of our schools, Nelson and Gooseland, are issuing computers, but even then we have laptop cards in the schools. So our students are using our technology a lot and we expect them, we tell them very clearly that technology is monitored. We look at student accounts, you know, sometimes randomly, sometimes, you know, we have filters that will tell us if somebody's typing the wrong words or whatever. And then we also expect not to see personal information coming across. We have found out way too many times where the party is on Saturday night. We found out way too many times what happened at the party on Saturday night. We don't want to do that. We want to stay out of that business. That's y'all's business. So, so that's the main thing we talk with students, is making sure that that they are using, when they're doing anything that relates to Blue Ridge, they should be using their Blue Ridge email. And the other thing I'll say to parents is, this is another area I'll get contact sometimes. Mr. Reynolds' class, computer science class, I'll get a call from parents that says, Mr. Reynolds has never responded to any of my child's emails. Well, I own their email, so I can go in and I look and I can see every single email that the student has ever sent Mr. Reynolds responded to. So I just PDF and send them off to the parent, which takes a lot of time and it kind of gets everybody started. You can look at your kids' emails. It's okay with us. And so ask them for their passwords, and if they won't give it to you, we will. So seriously, and that same goes for the online courses. Mr. Reynolds will talk a little bit about the online courses. You know, I would encourage, if there are stumbling blocks, if a grade comes in that you're not expecting, it's a low grade, take a look at that. Like, show me what you've got here. Show me, let's take a look at your grade book within your online grading program. That will be for the online courses. Or let's take a look at, you know, one of the things, we use Google Docs for everything. And so like Google ate my paper doesn't really work because they have all these backup servers and stuff. But if there are issues, we can also help with that. If a student says, I'm not sure where to find this document, we've got processes for them to just send up a flare to our technology person and to us to let us know, and we can help them track that down. So I mentioned handbooks are going out. If you are a parent of a 9th grader, you likely have seen those. Some of the schools haven't quite gotten them yet because we're meeting with Orange, Green, and Madison on Thursday. The 10th graders have not received theirs yet. We've got a field trip on the 20th. They'll get their handbooks. But the seniors should have received them. The juniors should have received them if they're in an online class this semester. And most of the 9th graders have gotten it. So one of the things we'll ask you for in the handbook is to sign that you have taken a look at it. And also there's a part where you can opt students out of things like sharing their information or sharing their images on any of our published works. We don't give out the student addresses and, you know, say, here's Chris Comer and he lives at such and such. You know, we don't do that. But occasionally we will put like a news article and we'll put like a student's first name and last initial or something. If you want to opt your child out of that, you can with that process. So I kind of hit most of that. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes just talking about what's going to happen in each grade level. So many of you are parents of 9th graders. This is the first time through. I mentioned different kinds of activities, but to start with, and it's worth knowing, one of the things that we do, our world history teachers, we have all sent them off for AP, advanced placement training. This is not an advanced placement course, but we have styled it as an AP, a pre-AP course, meaning that we do a lot of things that we know students will encounter in advanced placement courses later. So we're kind of working with them on how to write from a document-based question, for example, how to answer the kind of questions that they ask on AP exams. So it's pretty intense. I will tell you, and you've probably experienced as 9th grade parents of a 9th grader who came from middle school, where honestly the history textbooks are usually written about a 6th grade level, and the first thing we give them is guns, germs, and steel. We don't do that to make their lives miserable. We're trying to bring them into reading. Even though sometimes it does. I saw some of those looks. But what we're trying to do is really get students ready for this level of reading and analysis as they go on. And this is one of the things we hear. I bumped into a student who graduated from Madison. She's second year, just starting her second year at UVA. I was talking to her last year. We see a lot of our students. We're at UVA a lot, so we see a lot of our students. I said, what's working for you? She said, I'm reading 500 pages a week. And it was stuff like Guns, Germs, and Steel that got me ready for this. So, you know, it was nice to hear that it actually has an impact. So, so you'll hear about it. It is rigorous. We're not trying to do this. I'm not trying to do tons and tons of homework. If you're having problems with that, contact me and contact the teacher. Start with the teacher, but contact me. I'm glad to work with parents on that kind of stuff. So we got our field trips I mentioned, the kickoff trips. We have the Fluvanna, Goochland, Louisa Nelson was here last week, and Orange Green, Madison next week, or this coming week at Giuseppe. The research project, I already showed you a little bit about that. We're going to go to Washington in mid-October. So you'll see these dates, see permission slips coming out for these dates. Those are a lot of fun. Those field trips, we'll see the National Cathedral and National Gallery of Art while we're up there. Something that what happened with 9th graders and with 12th graders is something called the College Work Readiness Assessment. And this is something we've been administering to give parents and students and ourselves information on how our students are ready for the college environment. So it's a test, essentially it's a problem-solving test and how students take in information. So that'll be happening, and you'll get notice on that when that starts up. I mentioned that research papers are due November 1st. We've got a working field trip where they'll do the next stage of their team project for their website in middle of November, and those will be different dates for different school groups. And then their websites, their final websites for this project will be due December 1st. Once that happens, by the way, there is a website contest that information will go out. So parents can vote, siblings can vote, cousins can vote, lots of people can vote. So you'll want to have that. So we usually give pizza party prizes for that. One of the things we do, January, we'll do our second semester project. We'll have a college lecture to kick that off, and then we'll have another Washington, D.C. trip in March. And then one of the things, our second semester project is kind of an ethics debate. A lot of our parents come out to see that. If you can do that, that's a lot of fun. It's ethics in history or ethics of technology. So that's something that'll be happening. 10th grade is advanced placement biology. Many of the schools that we work with don't allow students to take AP classes until they're juniors. So this is a little bit of an opportunity to get ahead. AP biology is a tough course. I'll tell you straight up. But one of the things that we do is we make it a 2-semester course. So students in 10th grade have twice as much time as most students to learn this topic. And actually, our AP scores this past year, we beat national averages as far as what's called qualifying scores, scores that can get you credit in college. So we have a field trip on September 22nd for Arabidopsis, which is an experiment that we do with Virginia Tech. Actually, that's the right date on that, Mr. Reynolds? I think that may be that's the 20th. I think that was a misprint on that. We do CBF trips and working trips. So most of these will be coming out. Then we have a project in the spring called Funding Our Future, where students actually write a grant. Where they're doing it as a grant as a team, they write a grant in an area that's pretty critical. Then the AP test happens in May, and that's one you will. One of the things that we're going to hope to do this year is offer some AP study sessions. I don't know if you noticed coming in, there was a lot of Blue Ridge stuff across the hall here. We actually now have an office here in the Best Western because we kind of live here. We don't have rooms quite yet, but it's getting close. But the area across the hall, we were able to get that as an office space. We actually did, some of you probably know, we did a bio prep camp this summer for AP Bio for students, and we're going to be doing AP test prep probably a couple of different weekend dates prior to the AP test. So that's one for 10th grade students, kind of you'll want to keep an ear out about that. Mr. Reynolds, you're part of the show.
You need an 11th inning stretch. So when your student gets to 11th grade, it gets a little chaotic sometimes, but we like a little chaos every now and then, don't we? The reason is because every school has their own online grading system. You guys probably have already gotten into a parent portal or whatever they call them at their school. 7 different schools, and we're not employees of any of them, so we can't have access to any of that stuff. So especially with grades, when you go on there and you see an 11th grade online course or something like that they're taking, this could be 11th or 12th grade. If they're taking an online course, all the grades are going through the professors, UVA or JMU or me if they're taking a class from me directly, through our own grading system, which we'll send you info about and send you all that, but it gets confusing sometimes you do it. But then we channel that to the local schools, and we send the grades to me first and then to the local schools, and hopefully they will update the parent portal as best as possible with that. So That's always a big question, especially toward the beginning of the year. You look on there and you either see no grade for their computer science class or their UVA engineering class, or you'll see a grade and you're like, that's kind of old. I don't think they have that grade anymore or something. And it might be true because we send grades maybe 2-3 weeks, when the facilitators ask for it or something like that. So realize that those, for any of the online classes through Governor School, there's a certain little path we have to take in order to get everything updated correctly. But eventually we'll get it right. But anyway, with the 11th grade, when your student gets to the 11th grade, this a few years ago was the only class available to them. It was just computer science, and I taught it, and that's all they could take. All right, but now we've opened up things. There's 2 courses that I also teach, the AP Computer Sciences courses that they can take, and engineering and stats. So there's lots of opportunities for your child to take their online class in the 11th grade. And if they're not into computer science, I don't know why they wouldn't be, but hey, it's just me. But if they want to take engineering or stats, they can take those. And they can take all of these if they wanted to as well. This is not an either or kind of thing. If they want to start with the basic computer science and then move on to an AP computer science the next semester or the next year or something, they can do that sort of thing. If they want to take engineering and computer science at the same time, they can do that sort of thing. And then we also have electives. And they can take these along with the other courses, but these don't meet our requirements. The Governor School, Mr. Caraway talked about some of the skills that they're learning and things, with projects and stuff. Some of these don't have that, so these are electives they can take. They just aren't a junior requirement. But we have healthcare and cybersecurity through UVA, brand new courses. We're very excited about those. Digital tech, we've been doing that for quite a while. A lot of kids like that. This one was new last year. Amazing class. We had some students actually win some recognition for their novels their short stories that they wrote in that class, so that's very cool. And then we open it up. This is why it gets a little chaotic sometimes. We have students that are going, you know what? I like all these classes, but I'm really into sports medicine or something like that. Is there something for me there? And that's my job as the online coordinator, is to help them find something that they're interested in and that we can get them set up with. So even if they've taken all their classes that they need and they go, hey, I've got an extra space and I want to take something new, something different, something that I might be interested in for a career, we can try to help them get that. So we open that up quite a bit. So to be successful in this online world of a little bit of chaos, I always give the students some of these concepts here. Communicating with their teacher is very important because the teacher is not there in the classroom with them. So that communication through email or through chat or whatever is very important. This is something that they have to learn as well, to read well. Not just read stuff, but to read it well and follow the directions carefully. I always try to tell the students, you're not just learning the material from the class, you're also learning how to be online, how to learn online. Because, yeah, we can all get on our phones and Snapchat or whatever we can do. But if we want to do something serious, we have to really read those directions carefully. So we try to teach them that. Communicate with the facilitator. That's usually the person physically in the room with them. They always have somebody there that can help them with tech issues and things like that. But if they don't talk to them, they don't know that their internet's not working or their computer's down. So we make sure we try to get them to do it. They have to learn to manage their own time. Again, their teacher's now looking over their shoulder. Facilitator might be in the room, but is not looking all the time at what they're doing. They're watching cat videos. We don't know until we get a grade and go, oh, you haven't done anything in the last 2 weeks. What in the world? So they have to learn to manage their time. And that's important for them to say, all right, here's all the stuff I need to do in the next couple of weeks. Let me plan it out just right. Great life skill. Communicate with their local counselors. Sometimes they sign up for the class with us and they don't tell their counselor, and then they never, why aren't I scheduled for this class? Or they sign up with their counselor and they don't tell us, and we're like, why don't we have that? So that communication is very important. We want them to get the credit that they deserve, that they've earned. They also learn to be courteous with each other. It's very hard to show your emotions through this cyberspace. So we try to teach them how to, you know, write a good email so that people realize they're not yelling at them. Try not to use all caps. And then, of course, communicate with the governor's school, all right, so that we make sure that we're doing everything we do to make you successful. So there's our special communication device that we all use. Can you see kind of a key word up there at all? I don't know if you see that or not. I tell you, probably 95% of these problems that come up in online learning can be solved if we just talk about it in emails or anything like that. We can get it straight through, you know, just communicating. It usually gets taken care of in a day or so. And I give these students, I give all the online students our mottos: knowing what to do when you don't know what to do. Just sit there and stare at the computer. No, think about, what could you do? Could you ask somebody? Could you maybe try something different? You know, that sort of thing. It's a great skill to have. We always tell them to ask early, ask often. Don't sit there for 3 days staring at your computer with a little tear trickling down. Just ask. I even tell my students, go ahead and ask, and if you figure out the answer like 5 seconds after you hit send, just send another email. So never mind, I figured it out. Sometimes just writing that email makes all the difference, and it organizes your brain, and you go, oh, I got it. And that's all right. I always tell them, make sure you send me that never mind, though, because otherwise I might be spending an hour trying to answer it, and you're like, oh, I figured that out hours ago. Then there's a tear trickling down. And the last one, the most important, don't freak out. No matter what happens, don't freak out. We'll figure it out. I will help them, whether you can tell that I'm pretty crazy a little bit, but we'll figure all this. And if they're having issues, we'll figure it out when we get there. So, but that's it for 11th grade.
Just a couple of follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. A couple of follow-up things there, and just kind of going back to the communicate piece. So one of the things, students, when they're in their BRVGS email, all they have to do is start typing our name, and it will auto-populate with our email address. And I get tons of communications every week from students on everything. You know, what are we going to eat on the field trip? Pizza. You know, what time are we going to leave for DC? What, you know, all this kind of stuff. Love it. Absolutely love it. If your child is saying, I wonder what I should do about this, or I wonder what I could do for my senior internship, or I wonder what, just encourage them. We field those questions all the time. I had a student, somebody contacted me today about wanting to do a particular internship, and she can't find a mentor. Well, we've had 20 or 30 kids over the years that have done a similar internship. I know lots of people who have worked with high school students on that topic. So I can just go, hey, here's some resources. Here's some places you can go. Boom. And, you know, it took 2 minutes of my time and might make the entire difference for her senior internship. So definitely want to encourage that. The other thing for you to know as parents, and I don't think Mr. Reynolds mentioned this, all the courses that he mentioned, the UVA, we now have the four courses from the University of Virginia, one of the finer institutions in Western learning, in my opinion. But I'm a little biased. But we have 4 UVA courses, we've got JMU courses, we've got Germanic courses. These are all at no charge to parents and students. We are able to fund those courses. So as long as we are able to budget those, we will keep doing that, as well as the independent courses that Mr. Reynolds mentioned. We're doing marine biology, so they're looking at sports medicine. We've got some other, some higher math courses. Those are the kind of things we can do. So last thing is 12th grade, and I think we've only got one 12th grader here, but again, for parents, this is good to know ahead of time. The 12th grade is a senior internship project. So it's an internship, community service, and research project on any topic that a student can sell us on. And they've had, we've had a pretty wide gamut. We have had body piercing. We have had equine acupuncture. We've had how to be ecological burials. We've had, I mean, you name it, we got it. Then we get architecture, engineering, arts, creative writing, all kinds of different stuff. So one of the things that happens with that is that a lot of our students start thinking ahead about it. One thing was our students can do their internships in the summer before their senior year. They can't do the entire project, but they can get the internship part where they're spending time with an expert. And we have a process for that. So back to the communication, we email the students all the time with stuff like, hey, to do an early proposal, here's what you do. Sometimes I'll get to the point like this part of the year where I got a student say, I didn't know I could do mine in the summertime. They didn't read my email. So encourage your students your children to read our emails would be a good thing. But also, again, just communicate hey, what are the opportunities out there? Because the student, I can tell you right now, the seniors, we had the seniors here on, I think on Friday, Thursday. We had the seniors in on Thursday, and the ones who had done their internships over the summer were like, and the ones who hadn't, and they're starting the school year having no idea what they're doing, they're panicking, you know. Yeah, this is nice. So that's the kind of thing to be aware of as a parent. Again, these students can start that ahead of time. So the other thing, we always invite parents. We have local presentations for seniors, but then we have a big event that takes place over at the Orange County School Board office, which is it looks like a science fair. Everybody brings in information from all their internships. It's one of the coolest things in the world because you see all of these different things that our students are doing. Some of the boards, if you notice out in the hall as you leave, some of the boards out there from our last year's seniors, some of the different projects that they did. So just to be aware of. So a couple of other pieces of info for parents. We pay for students. Yes. Great question. So the internship and community service, the minimum requirement is 30 hours total, with a minimum for 10 a minimum of 10 for either. So a student could do 10 internship, 20 community service, 10 community service, 20 for internship. 15 of each. Most of our students actually do much more than minimum required. We rarely have students who have trouble getting their hours in. So 30 overall. So some, if you're talking about summertime, I mean, a lot of students will go do a week, just go job shadow somebody for a week. Boom, they're covered. So very, very easily. So we pay for students to take PSATs. So if your student comes up and says, I don't want to take PSATs, say it's free. Go take it because it's great practice for SATs. I mentioned the College Work Readiness Assessment. One of the things that we also do, Mr. Reynolds mentioned the extra courses. We also have sponsored quite a few students through summer learning opportunities. We had a student do a week-long James River trip. We had several students do science and technology camp. We had a student that did forensics camp, learning how to do like CSI stuff. If you're interested in something like that, and I'm speaking specifically to students now, if you're interested in this, contact me. We can find you fun stuff to do in the summertime that will extend your learning. And if we've got money at the end of the year, we can pay for those opportunities. We usually do have money. So we kind of try to have some put aside for that. So that's always worth knowing. One thing we're actually working on right now for parents, this is good to know. When your child applies for colleges, we have a program profile of Blue Ridge that goes out with those college applications that gives extra information that the student has done something above and beyond. So it can be very helpful with those college admissions. So the last thing I want to hit for just a couple of minutes here, and this is something that I sometimes do as a standalone session for anywhere up to an hour and a half. I'm not going to take that long because y'all have been here already for a while, and it's a school night. But I do want to kind of go over a couple of specific things about college success. I mean, a lot of people, when I asked that, we had the orientation in the summertime, and I asked students, what are the main reasons that you joined Blue Ridge? Well, the number one reason is it looks good on a college application. Number two is my mom made me. But the thing for us is we have students who do great. We had students get into MIT last year. We've had Harvard, Yale on full scholarships in the last couple of years. Duke, full scholarship. U.S. military academies, the Navy Academy, the Military Academy, West Point, Coast Guard Academy, and the Air Force Academy, all within the last couple of years. I mean, our students do well for college placements. But we get them to the front door of the college, and we haven't gotten them ready. We haven't done our job. So that's what we're really focusing on. So one of the things I spend a lot of time, we work a lot, as you heard, with UVA. And I talk to the professors. I talk about a quarter of our students go to UVA. So when I'm there, I'm always looking for one of our kids and saying, what do you do? What work? What work? What do you need more of? And I mean, one of the things I always hear is deadlines. Make sure they understand deadlines. I mean, that's a big thing. You get to college. This is what a college syllabus looks. I recently saw a college syllabus that said late work policy. I do not accept late work ever. Well, that's pretty straightforward policy. That's what it's like, and that's not how it's like in high school, quite honestly, because we can't afford to let kids fail in high school. We don't want kids to fail in high school, but college professors not so nice. So you're thinking about how you're going to prepare for that world. So a couple of things. I'll just give you a couple of tips, and there's this will be posted online. I'll attach this to. There's a news article on our website about the back to school night. But just a couple of things that parents can really help with, and I know this gets tougher in high school. And students get more independent. They kind of try to figure out their own way, and that's a good thing. But structured studying is huge. And by structured studying, I mean no TV, no phone. I know that's like you have to surgically remove it, but But seriously, I mean, here's some strategies that I've seen that really work well for parents. Just have a basket. When it's homework time, put your phone in the basket. One of the things you can do is say, look, I'm going to be on for 20 minutes. Mr. Reynolds and I were just talking, but we have to do this with what we do. If we've got to work on something online, grading or working on a website, 20 minutes. I'm putting the phone away for 20 minutes, and I'm going to work on it. Then I'm going to go back and check the email. I'm going to go back and check chat and text and see what's going on. So I'm on for 20. I'm off for 10. I'm on for 20. I'm on for 10. You cannot study well, and there's just tremendous amounts of science. You cannot study and prepare well with a phone, a TV, and a computer up on your email. It actually drags your IQ down about 30 points. There's no such thing as multitasking. It's just your brain switching gears between each of those stimuli. So it gets worse at the one you need the most, which is your study piece. So another good strategy for parents to encourage is, rather than like saying wait till the night before the test and then like study for hours, do it a little bit every night. There's a lot more retention. Another thing is reading is not studying. Just reading something is not studying. So for students to particularly get into subjects like AP biology, you need to interact with that. There's a lot of strange words. There's a lot of new concepts. By that, I mean, you need to write things down. There's a lot of science. If you're actually handwriting things down, it actually tends to stick in your brain better. The best things to write down are notes, keywords, but also questions you expect to see, and then create your own study guide. What a lot of students do, a lot of successful students will do, is for you to write that stuff down, and then they'll type it up as a study guide as it gets closer to test time, and then it's there. And then all of our students have a Google Calendar. Parents, if you can do this, get your kid set up with a Google Calendar. I mean, they are set up with a Google Calendar for us. Set yourself up with a Gmail account and then tie it in with their Google Calendar. If you ever want information on how to do that, we can share links about how to do that easily. Things like these due dates for these papers. If a student's got a due date of November 1st for their paper, probably you want them finished about 2 days ahead of that. And it's really good to work with students to set up your own kind of internal due dates. That way, if something comes up, something happens, the computer breaks or the dog eats it or something the night before the paper's due, you're not living and dying by that deadline. A couple other quick tips. Setting learning goals, like asking students what are they going to do with their learning, not just are you going to get an A or are you going to get into college. And by that, the example I like to give is, if you're in a language class, if somebody says, I want to learn Spanish so that I can walk into a restaurant in Spain and be able to converse with people there, they're going to do much better in their learning, and this is all research-based, than the student who says, I just want to get an A in Spanish. So a learning goal. What are you going to do with your college education? What are you going to do with your high school education to get ready for college? I always put on here, trust but verify, in the words of Ronald Reagan. There are a lot of times that the students' perceptions about what they have accomplished is not necessarily aligned with reality. So that's something where, hey, let's see what this looks like. I've had this as a principal, and in this role, probably 1,000 times I've had this conversation with a parent where he said, well, he told me he was doing his homework. And actually, it's about 70% of the time he told me. But he told me he was doing his homework. Well, he wasn't. And now he has an average of 4 in the class. And so we've got a big hole to dig out. So that trust but verify, it's a good thing. Just kind of check in on it every once in a while. And then, as I mentioned, the advocacy piece. When students can speak up for themselves, that's huge. I'll leave you a quick little story on that. Somebody that was a parent in the program that I knew because he worked in the school system, one of his daughter graduated the program. She gets to school, takes economics, tough course, takes her first test, blows it, gets like a 20. This is a good student, somebody who's always done well. She can't figure it out. She did everything she's supposed to do. She goes and talks to the professor, and in the course of this, they find out that she had the wrong textbook. She had a textbook with the same title, but it wasn't the same textbook that he was expecting. She bought it like used on Amazon or something. He's like, oh, okay, hold on, time out. Let's go back. You take another 2 weeks to prepare for this, doing the right chapters in the right textbook. Come back to see me. You did fine. That's the kind of stuff that advocacy can do for you. But the research says that a lot of students, when they hit that road bump, I just failed my first economics test in college, I'm going back home and working food line. So, and I've had actual students, I've worked in I was principal in one of our member counties. I've had actual students who were top 5 students in the class who turned around and were back home within 2 months because of experiences like that, rather than trying to work through those with like the professor. So anything you can do to make that happen. So Clear goals, the persistence and self-control, getting the skills, the real world experiences. We did these internships. A lot of times that's the first time our students have actually had to cold call anybody for, hey, can I come job shadow you? A lot of our students have not worked. It's harder for teenagers to find jobs. Anytime you can get into those experiences, we can make those happen. That's a big thing. And the last one is choice of college. A lot of students get hung up on, I've got to go to this school. I probably over the course of the time in this program, I've had 20 kids who said if they didn't go to MIT, they were going to die. Only one of them actually made it. The rest of them didn't die. They went to other schools and did perfectly fine. So one of them ended up at VCU because he wanted to do engineering. VCU had a brand new engineering program. Told me a year later, he said, I was so happy I got there. It's a brand new program. The professors are really easy to get to know. Everybody works together. It's a small group. I love it. I'm much more successful there than I would have been at MIT. So, yeah, that's the kind of thing. It's not where you go. It's what you do with it when you are there. There's, again, if you read Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath has a whole great section on that. It's sometimes it's better to go to the state school close to you and really make the most of it than it is to try to get to Harvard and be out there with lots of other big fish and be competing with that. So again, I'll be posting this. This is all the resources proving that I don't make all this stuff up. So questions that you would have about the program, about what's going to happen for this year, or anything that you would like to offer as suggestions for us to think about as we go into the year. Yes. The senior research project, so they have a topic, so they're, that is related to whatever that thing. So we work with them a lot on, it's supposed to be an analytical paper, not a report. We're actually in the process of giving students feedback on the proposals right now. And if somebody says, how many different kinds of, how many different ways are there to treat athletic injuries? That's more of a report. So we really get them to target and to look at different practices out there. What is the technology doing? And then come up with recommendations for the best ways. So we do it. It's a drill down scholarly research paper. They're not doing a research project like that. No, it's more of a study of existing research. But I will tell you, it was designed. My wife was going through her PhD process, so I stole a lot of stuff that she was going through at that point, and we plugged it into some of the different parts of the process to make sure that it is, really it is looking at scholarly research. One of the things that we do with seniors, we take them to UVA to use the UVA library for their research. We take students actually there at 10th grade, but then we do it again in 12th grade so that they actually have hands-on college resources for what they're doing. And so that's the level that we expect. And that's another area. I had a student graduate say, they're asking me to write 5 and 6 page papers in my classes, and I'm just doing it like this because I had to practice. They have papers in 9th grade. They have 2 papers in 9th grade. They have 2 papers in 10th grade, and they have a paper in 12th grade. So, and some of the other courses actually require this as well, some of the online courses. So, we do look at that research and writing part really hard. Yes. They do get college credit. How colleges accept other college credits is up to the incoming college, and it's always good to know if you're looking at a particular college. Same thing with AP scores. I mean, AP scores, a 3 will get you a lot of credits in one school and not so many in another. But with the UVA courses, they get a transcripted UVA course. If they get a B+ or better, or a B or better in the UVA engineering course, and they go into engineering UVA, that counts as their introductory course. So they immediately knock off a 3 credit. Actually, it's a 4 credit course at UVA. They knock off that 4 credit course. Tech takes it, VCU takes it. So again, how the colleges take that is up to the college that the student actually attends. So it's always good to check for that. But at a minimum, when you're talking about a 4-year college like UVA or JVU, it will transfer as an elective credit at a minimum. It's a little hit or miss. I mean, again, we had students that, so a lot of our students do dual enrollment through their local community colleges, and a lot of our schools now have dual enrollment programs where students can actually get an associate's degree. Depending on where you go, sometimes you just have to leave every single one of those courses on the table. And some of the schools in the state. So, so again, it's a little hit or miss, but I know that the UVA courses have done fairly well as far as, UVA's have some credit out there, so they do fairly well with, at least with the elective credit, and then with the engineering, I don't know of any program now that's in the state that's not accepting your engineering. Yes.
Those online courses specific for 11th and 12th graders, could 10th graders take them if they wanted, or is it only for the 11th and up?
The courses that we offer that are kind of the big picture courses there are primarily designed for 11th and 12th graders, and there's a couple of reasons. One is that we, in our project learning, build a lot of the skills for operating in that space. Having those websites like we had is meant to, if you've ever gotten into an online learning management system, they call them LMS, that most of the courses are offered through, it takes a little bit of, they're not real intuitive always. So we try to get students ready for that. But we have had a couple of situations where students have a specialized interest that we have allowed a student to take a different online course at an earlier age. So that's just contact me and Mr. Reynolds, and we'll be happy to talk with you about that and the council. Yes. Well, so I don't know that we clarified on that. We'll go back to this real quick. There we go. So the AP the two AP computer science classes, those are year-long classes. So you can only start at the beginning of the year on the AP classes. So, but we do have second semester. We have the cybersecurity. So, for example, you take the cybersecurity class second semester, and still be taking the second half of the AP class as well. And this is a new one. We had cybersecurity through Radford University up till this year, but we were able to get it from UVA for this year, so we were real happy about that. Okay. Yes. Correct. Yeah. You're talking virtual Virginia primarily, or our? I think that was through us. But because one of the things that will happen is the students have a mix. We have a bunch of our students who are taking some of our online courses and then the local online courses as well. But that's a great piece of advice. I mean, staying ahead. One of the things that knowing those deadlines and not saying, okay, I've got my deadline is Friday, September 1st to do such and such. Well, I'll start on at 11:55 on the 31st. You don't want to go there. You want to be definitely ahead, because the other piece of that is the students who get in the hole and ended up having more work to have to climb, to climb out of that hole. It can be pretty overwhelming, and that's where we see some students shut down occasionally. Not very often, but because we try to stay ahead of that. But that's one for parents to be aware of as well. If you see a low grade coming in, go ahead and send up if it's a Blue Ridge course, send up a flare to Mr. Reynolds. Myself, we'll be happy to work with parents and students on how to schedule out maybe makeup work, things like that. We won't say, well, we want all the stuff that you haven't done yet due on Friday. We're not going to do that. We're going to kind of set it up as a schedule for how is this going to work with everything else you have going on in your life. Good question. Good suggestion. What else? Going once? Going twice? be around for a few minutes. If you have an individual question, be happy to field those. Thank you for coming out, and hope you have a great school year. We will be, again, posting this presentation, so if you want to check out those resources that were at the end, you have a chance to explore those. And if you have any questions or suggestions during the school year, please feel free to contact me with those. So thank you much. Have a great school year.